For many people, watch collecting is about discovering new ways to tell the time. It can be a new type of complication, a new material, a discovery of a stunning dial that you've never seen before. It's weirdly exciting when we find something that we don't have. And this is where the next watch comes in. Today we are looking at the Halcyon Journey, a Chinese watch with a genuine porcelain dial. So let me tell you about porcelain. Porcelain originated in China and was commonly used as the tableware of Chinese royalty. It's created by heating materials such as clay and quartz at extremely high temperatures inside a kiln. The glossy finish of porcelain comes from the airtight bubbles beneath its transparent glaze. These bubbles create complex refractions and reflections of light, resulting in a rich, milky glow. If you look at the watch industry today, you'll notice one thing: a serious lack of porcelain dials. But why is this? Well, the main issue is that creating porcelain dials is one of the hardest things to do in watchmaking. To ensure the precision required for movement installation, the flatness of the dial must meet extremely strict standards, with a maximum deviation of no more than 0.02 millimeters between the highest and lowest points. So yeah, that's a small amount. Due to the glazed surface, porcelain dials cannot be stamped like metal or polished like stone or wood. They must be shaped solely through firing. Now, these bubbles that make porcelain so unique are also the same reason that make it extremely difficult to achieve the required flatness for a dial to be used in a watch. This results in a very high rejection rate, as only the rarest pieces meet these demanding standards. So just on this rejection rate, it is supposedly 99 out of 100, which means that only one dial out of 100 is actually making it through the process and it's actually usable as a watch dial. I can't find any credible sources for this though, and my instinct tells me this is more than likely just a great selling point. Don't get me wrong, the rejection rate on these dials is probably extremely high, yes, but 99 out of 100. That is a lot of waste. I'd love to see something on Halcyon's website about this. Maybe a production video or some footage from the factory. In today's day and age, people really appreciate the story behind how something is made. And the story is there, we just need to see it in action. Okay, so let's move on to the watch. This watch has a 40mm diameter with a 10.3mm thickness. I would actually say in this instance, 40mm feels a bit large for an elegant dress watch such as this. 38mm would have been the sweet spot for everyone to enjoy this watch. Although it may be harder to produce smaller porcelain dials, I'm not sure. The thickness of 10.3mm is sufficient, and the natural curve of the case means it will slip under the cuff much easier. The stainless steel case is highly polished, there are no matte surfaces, and the finishing looks very good. The bezel has 2 layers to it, which helps to enhance the aesthetics of the case, adding to that dressy feel. The crown at the 3 o'clock position is small and a little bit fiddly, but this isn't unheard of when it comes to dress watches. If you have big fingers though, you may want to get someone else to help you wind this thing. The Halcyon Journey benefits from sapphire crystal, which is ever so slightly domed. It protrudes out of the case by maybe ½ millimeter. Now this model I have here is the Suzhou numeral dial, an ancient Chinese counting system which creates a clean yet powerful aesthetic. What's great is you also have the option of a Roman numeral dial, but honestly this Suzhou dial feels so much more interesting and unique to me. Moving this dial under the light reveals the raised edges of the numerals. The Halcyon logo can be seen at the 12 o'clock position, with the Journey text at the 6 o'clock position. As with any dress watch, the focus is on the simplicity and elegance of the dial, and I think Halcyon have really got the balance right here. The blue heat-finished hands are really something to behold on this watch. I'm not sure if it's the texture and colour of the dial which complements the blue, but the hands really pop at certain angles. It's a joy to look at, honestly. It's really hard to explain what a porcelain dial looks like until you've got one in your hands, and I hope these images do it justice on camera, because the subtlety of porcelain really is fascinating. This milky, almost eggshell glaze is gorgeous and complements the blued hands perfectly. I think knowing the complex process this dial has gone through to get to this point adds to the romance of this watch for sure. And yes, you could probably try to recreate this style with some sort of plastic or enamel process, but it would never really offer up what porcelain has to offer here. On the back of this watch you have the Halcyon engraving, which is rather lovely, and this watch has 50 meters of water resistance. The genuine leather strap is a necessary requirement, and I would recommend black here as it matches the aesthetic of the numerals. The green leather strap did catch my eye when I went on Halcyon's website. It's quite funky. I definitely go for that, if black is a bit too, well, black for your taste. As for the movement, the Halcyon Journey lets you choose between two. The Japanese Miyota 9039 is the cheaper option, whilst for around $150 more, you can have a Swiss Sellita SW201. Both have around a 40-hour power reserve, but the SW201 is the preferred option here, being a Swiss workhorse. If you are strapped for money though, the Miyota is honestly very reliable as well, so you can't really go wrong here. So looking at the price here, which I think is the single most amazing yet confusing thing about this watch. So if you want the Miyota version, you're looking at £540 or $690. If you want the SW200, you'd need £715 or $920. Now for a true porcelain dial watch that we know has an exceptionally high failure rate and takes a long time to produce, I think this price is really very good. It's almost too good. Okay, so let's look at the competition. I mean, who else is doing what Halcyon are doing right now with porcelain dials? Well, after lots of research, the general consensus is hardly anyone. There have been porcelain dial watches made in the past, but they are extremely rare or have been a limited edition. Interestingly enough, Seiko produce a true porcelain dial watch called the Presage Arita Porcelain, which costs around $2,000. Creedor, which is part of Seiko, also produces a porcelain dial watch with premium metals such as gold and platinum. These aren't cheap though, with the platinum version coming in at £51,000 or $65,000. What I have found is numerous enamel dials or dials claiming to be porcelain, but they simply aren't. You cannot find true porcelain dial watches anywhere it seems, not for the price Halcyon is asking for anyway. Okay guys, so my final thoughts here. The Halcyon Journey can easily be looked at as a gimmick, a watch that doesn't need to exist because the production methods are long-winded, expensive and have a high failure rate. But as watch lovers will know, these things can be the reason we fall in love with a watch. We want something unique, we want something special, something that has a story to it. Is this watch something I can see passing down my family line? Absolutely. It's also a watch that will always look good, that's for sure. Halcyon also have a lot of brand potential here. They've somehow managed to produce and offer this watch for a very reasonable price. Now is the time for them to capitalize on this and perhaps release more porcelain dial watches. Release a whole range, corner the porcelain dial market, why not? So what does this watch represent? It represents beauty in the craft. It represents a growing Chinese market that is yearning to showcase its quality, its desire to compete with the Swiss elites. I think this watch is quite special, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for Halcyon. Okay, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you again so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, you can really help me and the channel out by subscribing, liking the video, and clicking the bell icon so that you don't miss any future videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.